5-year anniversary is coming up. I think a lot of people would really like to hear from you after all this time. I want to know what it's like to be in the presence of that kind of evil. What goes through your brain when he's close enough to you and feel his breath.
Yeah, I know, Halloween is over, but you can see this here as a Halloween bonus video. Terrifier 3 is also quite fitting for this, I assume, as it mostly has a Christmas theme, but it does pick up where the previous one has left off. On Halloween, after a cold open which shows Art killed during Christmas. So it bridges the gap from Halloween to Christmas, which is nice. As I will probably also review some horror movies for Christmas this year, I think. They most likely won't be as messed up as this one here though. We first see Art's headless body being discovered by the police, and how he gets a new head before he visits Vicky, the disfigured survivor from the first movie, who has turned into a brutal accomplice. For some reason, I guess. They start their own short murder spree until Vicky seemingly ends her life, or death, whatever she is currently, and Art just seems to hibernate for a couple of years until Art is resurrected by two handymen who enter the house and both Art and Vicky awaken from their slumber to cause even more carnage. Meanwhile, Sienna has spent the last 5 years in a mental asylum, trying to work through her issues and the trauma which she has from the second movie. She is picked up by her uncle and starts living with what is left of her family. Her brother Jonathan is in college. While also being traumatized, he seems to have worked through his issues better than Sienna, who is still seeing her dead friends tormenting her and giving her the fault for their demise. We meet a couple of characters, like a beautiful young podcaster who is after the Shaws and wants to know everything about Art. Also, there are some fun cameos in this movie. We see Daniel Roebuck, Clint Howard, Chris Jericho and Tom Savini. There's also Jason Patric as Sienna's father for some reason, so overall no really big names, but some recognizable faces. At least if you are a horror fan, which is sometimes a bit insane with the amount of violence we see here and the taboos that are broken here. The change of setting from Halloween to Christmas also offers some nice ideas, and this is probably the funniest Terrifier movie, with some actual fun jokes that also land. My favorite probably being Art's reaction when he sees Santa Claus in a bar.
So I've been in entertainment for a long time. You saying that? I was Elvis. Those girls, lost in the 1980s.
In general, I really appreciate David Howard Thornton here, who really gets some scenes in which he can shine by being funny or disturbingly sadistic. The acting in general is mostly serviceable. Lauren Lavera is trying to get the best out of some more emotional scenes and can show some of her stunt work. In general, the actors don't have the best material to work from though. The script is what it is. The audience also laughed a couple of times when I watched it in the theater. Actually, even at some gruesome scenes, and some that I thought were more mean-spirited than anything else. But hey, as long as they have fun, it's fine, I guess. There was also not much talking in the cinema once the kill started, which was good as well, as the audience seemed to be quite chatty at first. I did miss someone in the audience reacting to the more messed up parts though, as that's what I'm usually in for when I watch a violent movie in cinemas. But I guess that crowd was either kind of used to it and not that shocked or couldn't believe what they were seeing. Anyways, the story is once again messy, and in this part it became clear that Leon doesn't really seem to know what rules his franchise has. It's just fucked up stuff happening and Art being a demon, I guess. I also have to say that I like the story in the second movie more, and Sienna doesn't feel as great as in the second movie. I'm not quite sure why, but her character just feels weaker. Weaker written, too long unsure about Art returning, and especially in the ending, which was a letdown in general. There are some good ideas, but it hardly comes together in a satisfying way. Some scenes also feel like filler, I would say. Jonathan's part in the movie also feels almost like an afterthought, and it just gets so weird in a kind of nonsensical way at times that I'm not sure what this franchise wants to deliver except for gore. The gore also doesn't top the bedroom scene from part 2, I would say, or the gore in general from part 2. Sure, there is the notorious shower scene, which is horrific and bloody, but as I said, it's not worse than the second one, and feels like something that could have been also in one of the Wrong Turn sequels. While not, let's say, softer than the previous one, it's also not really an escalation in violence, I would say. There's also the red torture scene, which is rough but also not as bad as the bedroom scene in my opinion. I think there are more kills and blood in general though, and as I said, there are some taboo topics, which could be triggering for some. As I want to talk about some of the kills and especially the ending, I will talk about spoilers next, so be warned. The taboo topics I referred to and which sparked some minor controversy before the release were dead children. Yes, Art kills quite a few kids in this one, and it's no less graphic than the other kills. It already starts with dismembering a little boy, and later blowing up a couple of kids in a Santa booth in a mall, which is first played as a joke but then shows close-ups of the little body parts. You don't see the kills themselves, but you see the results of the mayhem. I can understand if someone doesn't want to see that, and if that's a deal breaker, and that this can be a deal breaker for a lot of people. To be honest, I also was surprised that I was seeing kids getting graphically killed on the screen of a movie theater. I was also surprised that no one left at these scenes, or said something, to be honest. I would have assumed that there would be some reaction. But maybe they were too shocked, I don't know. We also learned that Art was most likely a serial killer when he was a human, and killed a lot of kids back then, and eventually became the host of a demon due to him being an absolutely deranged serial killer. So this was most likely a callback to his past. It does feel like an attempt to be controversial and going over the top, which I don't really like, and it does feel more like something done in bad taste than anything else. The kills in general do feel different here though. Most of the time we see an extreme close-up of the wound, intercut with Art attacking, making these scenes sometimes look pretty odd. In the worst case it feels even like the splatter effects were done at a different time and in a different place. I don't know if this was made for budgetary reasons, because of the complex practical effects, or for practical reasons, or because some of the actors maybe didn't want to be covered in blood and effects, but I would assume it was mostly done for money and time reasons. I was also missing a real standout effect. The scene in which Santa gets sprayed with liquid nitrogen and then getting hit with a hammer was quite memorable though. The ending was a real letdown in my opinion. It's mostly Sienna being tied to a chair, seeing the rest of her family being killed and mutilated, and it just goes on. Eventually she also gets hit with a wooden hammer, seemingly breaking her hands, but she's still somehow able to use a sword and fight properly with it afterwards. The sword is also given to her when her niece is telling the demented killers Vicky and Art that she wanted to give her a gift, and it's all just so convoluted and conveniently put together. Feeling out of character for Art and Vicky at this point. It's just so contrived. They also just behave stupidly in this ending. I also don't understand how the sword is actually working on demons. Vicky gets her neck slashed and then decapitated, which eventually kills her. But Art was also decapitated in the last one, but was somehow able to survive as Vicky gave birth to his head. Also Art gets stabbed in the chest here and survives. But it seems like wounds don't affect Sienna and Art in the showdown. When Vicky dies, she also slowly melts and eventually the ground opens up, putting Vicky and Sienna's niece into hell. But the niece can hold on to something for a moment. Sienna then looks for something so she can reach her niece, and her niece can grab it and pull up on it. But the thing she uses is her sword, which she holds at the blade, which is like the dumbest thing you can do. A lot of the furniture was destroyed in the house when she was fighting Art. She could have probably grabbed the table leg or something. Anything would have been better than the sword, especially if she grabs it at the blade, to be honest. That way she just lost her niece and the sword that fell into the hellhole with her. And then Sienna vows revenge while the cut from the swords are healing. What a letdown. What a dumb ending. I really hope Leon is coming up with something better for the sequel. Or get someone to co-write these movies who can create a better story. So yeah, while not terrible, I was a bit disappointed in this one. And I think it was a step down from the second movie. While it doesn't get as bad as the first one, I hope that the series would improve from movie to movie. You can at least see that the budget was put to good use. I'm also glad that the movie got such a positive response, especially commercially. While not a great movie, it does open opportunities for other independent movies, lower budgeted movies, splatter movies, and most of all, unrated movies in cinemas. Which is always nice. And as there have been a couple of big budget flops, some unjustified in my opinion like Furiosa, and some quite understandably like Joker Folie 2, which trailer was shown before the movie, it's nice to see that horror is still doing very well and that independent ideas can also work rather well and be successful. Unfortunately, I can give Terrifier 3 only a 5 out of 10. But who knows, maybe it will grow on me over time, and maybe the next one will once again be a step up. Hopefully.
You survived the most famous serial killer since Jack the Ripper. The 5-year anniversary's coming up. I think a lot of people would really like to hear from you after all this time. I want to know what it's like to be in the presence of that kind of evil. What goes through your brain when it's close enough to you. You feel his breath.
I saw him today. Who? How can you be sure it was really him? I could feel it. Who is this Santa? He's scaring my kid.
Yeah, he's scaring me too.
Hey, Santa's handing out presents!
Why would he come back here? Even if he was alive, which he isn't. Wouldn't you want to get as far away from here as possible, as far away from you?
We both know this isn't over. I have to go back to the Terrifier.
It's still buried there, isn't it?
It might be the only thing that can stop them. Looking forward to the best Christmas ever, filled with fun, smiles, and laughter.